just when I thought they had organized things really nicely with the bags, the very first bag of plastic parts I need to go into is bag number 4. If you think about it, that makes sense, right? 4 is usually the first. And one of the parts you'll need is in bag number 6. So if you're following this, from bag number 6 you will find this parts tree. And here's the little guy that you need. Part number 2? Yep, part number 2 on that tree. It's in step 3. You'll need that guy from bag 6. Hope I just saved you a bunch of time. It's one of the little input shafts to go into the diff. Once again, topped off by a little E-clip, but it's easy to get to. It's actually going to help you to orient it properly. It pushes through, bearing goes on the other side. And then the input cup here, and they use a screw pin with a fairly large thread to it. And I am going to use a little bit of thread lock on that. They actually do specify the use of thread lock there wisely. Use plenty. If there's any place on a RC that you want to use a ton of thread lock, it's a place like this. But you don't want to do like I just did and get it on the shaft, because then it could actually lock itself a little bit too hard. So I've gone a little bit overboard there. I'm just going to take a little bit off from the bottom threads and a little bit that actually touched the shaft, because I don't want that to get locked in there permanently. I also don't want it to back out. It really sucks when these things back out. So I'll just tighten that by hand. And this is also, there we go, good. This is also going to need some grease, and they give you some grease in the kit. It's heavy duty wheel bearing grease, the green stuff, and that gets slathered onto the gear somewhat liberally. I'll let that work itself into the teeth on its own time. And I get to do the same thing again for the other side. Finally, the diff itself gets some grease on the exterior teeth of this major big outer bevel. This guy slides in here. On the other end of the housing, make sure there's no flashing left over. It's going to mate up to it beautifully like so. Get some screws. Now using bag B of hardware, we get some self-tapping screws, unfortunately. The shock tower goes onto one of these guys, and here's that part from bag 6 that I mentioned earlier. Also gets secured with self-tapping screws, just a little bit longer. I just discovered that these are extremely easy to over tighten. I went just a tiny bit too far with these. I started to see a little bit of a hint of stress around the edges here, so I had to back them out just a little bit. Do be careful when you're inserting those countersunk screws. Now the diffs get moved to the side for a minute while I finally, after going through bag 4 and bag 6, I now get to use bag 1. And we're going to work on some axles, it looks like. Now on the parts trees, you have to get, from the one that the uprights are on, you have to get part number 2. From the knuckles sprue, you need to get part number 1. And then when you actually look at the coating on them, which for the knuckle is back under here, and for the upright is back here, you want to match those numbers up, because now this is a number 2 and this is a number 2. So pay attention to those. Double, triple, quadruple check this. It's very easy to get this wrong because it's definitely a little bit on the confusing side here. So those are going to go together. And then I've got a large bearing that's going to go inside. This is a 10 by 15. Pretty standard stuff. And then 5 by 10 goes on the other side. These are just dog bone axles, so that's just going to go straight through like so. Little pins, I use these little brass pins as king pins, like little stubby king pins. They're going to go in from the top and from the bottom. They will be secured using set screws. Set screws are going to go through plastic, so there is no need to use any thread lock compound there. Make sure that you start this off straight. There's a little bit of an angle there, a little bit of a ledge on the plastic, so it's easy to start threading this thing in a little bit wrong. Just make sure that you've got it lined up right the first time, then go for it. And this can be just barely finger tight, barely. It only needs to go in to the point it will lock itself. You do not need to tighten that down hard at all. That is definitely something that can strip out. I could already see that it's moving the plastic a little bit, so probably would have been a good idea to thread these to actually tap them out a little bit. But I've already started this, so I'll just be careful with it. As soon as you feel it tighten up at all, just stop right there. And then this is going to make for one axle assembly. That feels really nice in there. It's going to rotate easily, and then you've got a dog bone that's just going to go straight through there, like so. And then I'll go ahead and do the other side real quick. These A-arms have a very beautiful design to them. A little bit of upward swoop there, a little bit of cupping on the bottom. Just very nice aesthetic to it, and I'm sure there's good engineering behind it also. So this guy is going to go together now with some captured pins. Thank goodness for captured pins. As long as you get it through there properly, the right amount, it is very easy to secure, because you just need to again pick up with no thread lock a little 3mm. Ooh, this guy fell out. A little 3mm set screw, and that will fully capture the pin because it has just a little bit of a narrower diameter in its center. And again, this is a case where you insert it until you feel a little bit of resistance, and then you stop. You do not continue to tighten it beyond there. So that takes care of that for one side. I'll do the same thing for the other.